68th budget of independent Sri Lanka and the 9th budget of the alliance government was presented to Parliament yesterday by President Mahinda Rajapaksa. According to the 2014 budget, the total revenue and grants stands at 1,469.5 billion rupees. The government estimates that it will earn 1,274.6 billion rupees as tax revenue and 162.8 billion rupees as non-tax revenue. The total government expenditure for the coming year stands at 1,985.6 billion rupees, out of which 1,328.3 billion rupees will be allocated for recurrent expenditure such as payment of salaries and interest. Speaking today at the post-budget seminar organized by Ernst & Young, Secretary to the Ministry of Finance and Planning, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara explained that the aims of the 2014 budget. News First was the media sponsor for today's post-budget seminar.
First, we should look at the key objectives of the budget 2014 as presented by His Excellency the President in Parliament. If I may take some of the key objectives as spelled out by his speech, is to maintain growth rate between 7.5% and 8% during the medium term, to increase export earnings, to increase aspiration and goals of low and middle income people, to reduce the budget deficit to 3.8% of GDP by 2016, and to increase the revenue and broaden the tax base. These are the key objectives based upon which the budget 2014 has been presented. And I would like to call upon Dr. Jayasundara to do his keynote address. Thank you very much.
With keynote speaker, Secretary to the Ministry of Finance and Planning, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara.
I would like to say, when tax works better, the country works better. The reason I am giving that message is, here the taxpayers, and here the Commissioner General. So, please pay your due tax. We have a moral right now to ask that, because nobody can now grumble about our tax system. When the very able young consultant in this field, respected guy, says that we don't know how banks react to 2% in BT, I would say leave it to markets. Why worry? When we reduce 37% tax to 28 3 years ago, how did they react? So they have a space. Didn't do much. Immediately put money on treasury bonds, bills. Took several years to put on long-term investment. Took long time to reduce interest rate. So like that. So let 2% be absorbed comfortably, because we are also determined that countries' lending rate must come down. So therefore don't make use of this occasion to further manipulate markets. Countries demanding to finance, better access to finance and low-cost funds. And I'll go into it. In my speech, I will speak 5 points. One is macro policy direction. The other is fiscal policy. Where do the government of His Excellency the President wants to take the country? And third, development priorities. For you, this may be 2014 budget. For him, it is 2020. Sufficient. And then elements of reforms that we need. And where you have to look at the entire agenda from a different perspective. And then also I may respond to critics on the budget which I have seen in the morning. Coming on to the macro fiscal policy direction, I want to highlight the country has consolidated reasonably well and continue to improve on the monetary fiscal coordination, relation, interaction, the inseparable interactions, and through that the monetary fiscal balance of payments and real economy linkages, constant dialogue, debate in our monetary board meeting, which is essentially a forum for fiscal, monetary, real economy coordination, has helped these nations to ensure that the macroeconomy can be conducted in a more responsible, more credible manner. As a result, today Sri Lanka is in an environment where the growth rate is maintained above the nominal inflation. So we are not talking real economic growth in just a growth plain language, but the growth rate is maintained above headline inflation, which is what the structural shift we have maintained. We had growth rates up until recent times, 4-5%. Inflation was 10-12%. But now, the country has moved on to 6-7% inflation, and this year it has moderated for almost 4 years, single digit, and Governor has made his commitment to engage the monetary policy to move towards maintaining a mid-single digit inflation while country is witnessing buoyant, steady 7-8% growth. That is a remarkable transformations which the policymakers in government, policymakers in the central bank, and policymakers in the treasury, and we hope private sector will work on this environment steadily. And that's one critical change that has happened in this country. And the next 3-4 years, we want to deepen, consolidate this process. Therefore, in working in that kind of a predictable environment, we have identified areas in which concentration is required, and that's why concentration in the real economy, concentration on the trade account and service account have been paid, not by getting into ideological debate on import substitution, export promotion kind of things, but to get into a true business model of doing what is viable in Sri Lanka with least amount of support other than infrastructure, predictable policy environment, skilled labor, and positioning Sri Lanka itself in a competitive environment. So we have looked at trade, looked at areas where imports could be replaced. We have heavy industries in the private sector. I met the Holcim chairman, CEO here, the new chairman, new CEO first time, and Holcim can expand capacity. I can't see any reason why Holcim let cement be imported from somewhere else. Tokyo Cement is here, not government. Internationally reputed companies expand the capacity. What's the problem of import protection here?
Post-budget brief.